episode 67 of Christian Geeks Rockcast with me, Steve, and that is Britt Mooney.
Woohoo! What's up?
I am. It's really super early in the morning.
Oh, this is not super early. It sounds like it. It sounds like because our voice. We're going to sound like Barry White today, baby.
Oh yeah, you got a morning voice today. This is early for me. I'm more of a late night person, and Britt's more of an early morning person. So,
well, I've become more the early morning person. I'm not naturally an early morning person. I am naturally a late night person. But when you have to get up early, and then get your children up early, and then take them to school early, and you're old, and your body goes, "We don't change now. What are you talking about? You don't get to stay up now."
Yeah. I don't know how it's I get up early with my kids during the school year, which is like stupid early, like 5:30. But then I usually tend to I'll usually go back and lay down in bed and sort of read or do something like that, which sometimes turns into dozing back off again. So I always have to set that secondary emergency alarm to make sure I get up in time to actually go to my work. So, but the older I get, the less I do that. Cause several years ago, I used to do it every day. I would just go right back to bed, fall asleep, and everything was good. But nowadays it's a little more challenging, but things are changing because, we'll have one out of the house next year, and then we'll have one in high school. And my wife drives to the high school, and we live far away from the high school. So it's
you do.
There's no point in me going over there if,
What time do they leave in the morning?
Usually about 5:55.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. They get there early, get in before the crowd starts, getting there. So,
yeah,
because Jill has a prime parking spot, but she doesn't like to fight traffic to get to it. So
she's a VIP, baby.
Oh yeah. Yes, indeed.
As my wife says, Jill Chalk runs the school. That's what she says. She says Valentine might be the principal, but Jill Chalk runs the school.
There's some level of truth to that.
Okay. Look, if Becca says it, I believe it. And that I don't know, I'm not there, but Becca knows. Well,
okay. Speaking of my wife, there is a video that is circulating on the social medias. There's a kid. I won't name names, but he's a kid I've known since he was basically a baby.
Not your kid.
Not my kid.
Okay. All right.
But it's a family I used to go to church with. And this high school that my kids, there were 750-ish graduating seniors. So there's a lot of kids graduating, but these friends of mine decided to be the clown at graduation and Gritty up on the stage. And, if you have kids, you probably know what Gritty is.
Is this a kid that fell?
Yes. And so then he gets his degree.
Did he mean
first
to?
Of all, yes.
He meant to fall 100%. The second time I thought he meant to.
Yeah, he meant to. He fell on purpose.
My kids and my wife are like, I don't think he meant to fall the second time. I'm like, I think he did. I think that was all. Anyway, go ahead. So this is the video online?
Yeah, so it was streamed on YouTube. And so there's an account that's associated, not officially associated with the school, but it's student run.
Oh, yes. My kids were talking about this, Instagram account or something.
Yeah. So they clipped the video of just him grittying up on stage. And then he goes to grit, and you could tell his brain was like, okay, what's my next performance? Because he didn't know how to shake the hand. And then he gets it and he falls off the stage. And so, but it was all an act. Anyway, so my wife is up there in the middle, helping hand out diplomas. So she's right in the middle of the screen. And so they clipped this video, and it is as of last count, it had 1.2 million views and close to 100,000 likes and 50,000 shares and just all this stuff. So I've been telling the world that the that the reason this video is so popular is because my wife is in it. So
yeah, she was kind of the booth babe.
She was the what?
She was kind of the booth babe. She was handing out the diplomas.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because we were making a joke last night because I post on social media probably more than I'm like the family spokesperson. So anytime anything happens,
you are
like Steve. Like they'll
your wife does not. Jill does not.
No, she never posts. But she gets really upset with me if I don't tag her in family posts. But the whole idea is like, I post things and she never posts. She never posts about her anniversary. She never posts a happy birthday. She never likes my posts that I say about her for our anniversary.
Not bitter at all. You're not bitter or anything.
No. Well, the thing is, I'm kidding. I'll tell you what, it's one of those things where I heard somebody say this once. It's like, and no offense if this applies to you folks, but it's like people who have the best marriages don't have to tell everybody they have good marriages. Yeah, so that's kind of the way we talk about that.
And also to be fair, Jill Chalk is an administrator at a school, so people in our county and in education have gotten in trouble for posting stuff on social media. And so my wife is very careful. She posts more than your wife does, but my wife is very careful for that reason. So a lot of teachers can, and it's definitely administrators can be careful for those reasons.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we were making jokes last night about how she's been seen more on social media
than you have
in that one video than any of us ever have for anything
combined.
It's kind of ironic, but
I mean, unless this episode goes viral.
Unlikely. I do not expect that.
Well, you get Jill to come in and do a little cameo, and maybe it'll go viral. It'll go viral.
We say this is the featured woman from the kid falling down video. Maybe you recognize her. But she'd have to put a robe on and hold a diploma. That would.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're pre-recording this a little bit because June is very busy for me specifically, and I'm sure for Brett too. But we're pre-recording this. So if we make a reference to something that feels like it was in April or May, and it's actually late June or July, that's why. So just go ahead and forgive us because that's kind of where we are in life.
Ironically, I just realized. I didn't do this on purpose, but we are doing an episode on a non-metal band, let's just say, and I have my classic.
Your mug is very blurry.
I've got my classic metal fan from Bob, Pastor Bob's website. It's got all the classic Christian metal, Deliverance and Bloodgood, but we're not doing a metal. We're not doing a metal.
Is it not metal? Is Sixpence the Richer not metal? That's the debate.
You let us know in the comments.
The age-old debate, is Sixpence None The Richer metal? It's really funny how that is just, it's like it's a trope kind of with our podcast, but it's a trope because if you spend any time on the Christian Metal Facebook page, it won't stop.
No.
And there's people that I went on this Christian rock / metal, I think is what it's called. It's a Facebook page. And I just joined it recently. But for some reason, people will post Idol Cure or something. And someone will go, that's not metal.
But it's rock.
I know. And I don't know. It's really bizarre. But anyway.
Hey, look, if Christians are known for anything, it's that they don't take some things too seriously. That they have a good handle on what to take seriously and what to not take seriously. And if Christians are known for anything,
there will be a lot of satire in this episode. You'll see soon. This is like the Babylon Bee podcast for
oh my gosh.
But
Babylon Bee, my spirit animal.
For sure.
Ron Swanson and the Babylon Bee, my spirit animals. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing this episode on the debut, like we'll say the debut album. They had like a indie EP theme before, but Sixpence None The Richer, The Fatherless, and The Widow. That's our album.
1994. This is at the cusp of our time frame. 1994.
1993.
1993? Was it 93? I thought it was 94.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1993. Yes, and R.E.X. and R.E.X. Records. And
yeah,
I loved this album. I actually, when you asked which Sixpence should we do, I'm like, I mean, this is probably my favorite album by them. So
it is not my favorite, but listening back to it over the last few days, I realized I haven't listened to it in forever.
Yeah, me either.
Like it may be 10 years since I popped the CD on. But it's so good. I mean, it's like, you can tell, like, first of all, you can tell Matt Slocum is a genius.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, that's pretty obvious. But yeah, it's so good. And Lee was like a child, literally, like she was not even 18. I think she was 15 or 16 when this album came out.
Really? I don't remember that. I just remember, I know I saw them at some point. I don't know whether it was before or after I bought the album. We can talk about some of this later, but I saw them at Atlanta Fest and was blown away.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just that combination. And at some point I got this album and wore the tape. I mean, it was a cassette, I'm sure. I just wore it out. It was right in the wheelhouse of what was going on musically in that day. And, and I am metal to the core, but I like all kinds of music, and this was good. I was like, this is good, and it's Christian, and it's, really high quality. And R.E.X. did that. R.E.X. would do that every now and then. They'd pull out a band and you're like, wow, where did you find these guys? Like, they're really good.
Yeah, they were, the other thing is you could tell they were very talented, and they also were not cookie cutter for Christian music. Right. Like it was something different, but something unique for Christian music. So,
right. Yeah, but they also fit the style of what was going on in pop alternative music. Like they fit that, but they weren't like, it wasn't like, oh, they're just like this band, or they're just like this band, or they're just like whatever. Like they were in the wheelhouse, but they also had their own style and sound. And like you're saying, I think it comes down to Matt Slocum's writing and musicianship, and her voice was angelic. And probably still is. I haven't seen any recent videos of them, but I think they're back together, like everybody else is still doing stuff.
I think that they may be doing stuff, but I know Matt and Lee joined 10,000 Maniacs. So I think they're touring with 10,000 Maniacs.
That's right. I remember that now.
Which is wild, because I had forgotten that. And I was sitting there thinking about, okay, what are the influences? Like, what does it feel like the influences on this band are? And I was thinking, 10,000 Maniacs.
Right.
and then later on, I was like, wait a minute. They're like actually literally in 10,000 Maniacs now.
Yeah.
That's just weird. But anyway, so you want to hit some news before we really jump into it?
Yeah, let's hit some news.
Okay. So in the news, this is going to be fake news. Fake news you can trust, as the bee says. So we don't have, because we're pre-recording this, there's probably news happening out there. We just don't know it because it's in the future. So we're going to try.
This isn't a prophetic. It's not a prophetic podcast. Well, we can predict.
You never know. It might be prophetic. The thing is, you don't know.
That's true.
These things could come true. So Britt and I were talking about things in the news the other day, and so we came up with excuse me, came up with this. So Michael Sweet is releasing an album. It's the third. It's what his third favorite album this year that he released.
The third best album this year he's ever done.
Yes, ever. But it's actually, he formed a new band with CeCe DeVille.
Yes, right.
And because, he's partnering up with all these old aging rockers, and they have an album coming out called To Hell with the DeVille. Right? Is that it? I need like a laugh track or something. Don't you have one of those on that board?
Oh, wait, hold on. Where is it? No.
That's not it. Just hit all the buttons.
I am. I think I found it though.
What is that? Oh, there we go. You found it.
I did. Well, there's also I was looking also for the rim shot.
Oh, that's good. Rim shot is good. Yeah, you need to label those.
I should have labeled those a long time ago.
Okay, and so then also like there's a new group coming out called Super Petra. Super Petra. And it's the combined forces of all Petra members that have ever been in the band, and they're going to tour under the name Super Petra. And so it's like,
yeah, who's in the band?
Concert. Oh, you got Greg, you got Bob, you got John. Ronnie's coming back, sure, why not?
Charles Stone's going to give him like a month off.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the Lord, so it's cool. So Super Petra is going to be amazing. So all these, it's just another Petra iteration, but this time it's everybody. And it's all like going back to the debut album. All those guys are all going to come back. It's going to be amazing.
Except this time, they're going to play, and then Joel Osteen's going to come out and speak. And then, right?
Instead of Josh McDowell?
Instead of Josh McDowell. I'm kidding.
Pass the plate. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, people. If you love Joel Osteen, I'm sorry. All right. And so this is a piece of news that I found out / made up this morning. So David Huff from David and the Giants is actually going to be joining Giant with the other David Huff and Dan Huff. And then also David Zafiro from Bloodgood will be joining as well. And they're going to change the name of the band to Giant and the Davids. And then Dan Huff and David Huff from Giant are going to join David and the Giants. So it'll be the two David Huffs, Dan Huff, Rayburn and Claiborne Huff, and they're going to be called David and the Huffs. I was like laying in bed this morning thinking of all the David and the Giant jokes.
Wait, there's another. No, not that.
Like I was like half asleep laying in bed, just cracking myself up with David and the Giants jokes, and I don't know if they landed or not, but
yeah. But would those bands be metal? That's the real question.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question right there. I think the answer is no.
Okay, got it.
Now, To Hell with the DeVille. That might be metal.
Close. That's close.
Yeah. So, although there's a lot of people in the Christian metal group that would not agree with that.
That's true.
I still think Giant and the Davids is a great.
I love that one. That's amazing. I love that one.
All right, so that's all the fake news I've got.
That's the fake news. That's in honor of Donald Trump, who has been convicted. We'll see how that goes. All right, no, it's not political. We're not political.
No politics.
We're just going to move on.
Although I'm like looking at all because of politics, I hate politics. So I'm literally just the guy like Michael Jackson eating.
Oh, right. I know.
Like,
well,
what are you going to do?
And as a former former history teacher, and history was my first gig in the professional realm. So yeah, I'm doing the same. There's a lot of it that's like, I have some opinions, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, this has never happened. Yeah, okay, we're rolling with it. Let's see what happens. So anyway, yeah.
It's crazy.
And
by the time this comes out, something else crazy
will have happened. Murder robots from Canada, made out of bacon or something. I don't know. Something's going to happen.
Bring me a murder robot
with bacon.
Delicious with bacon. All right, so that's all the news. That's all I got. All right, so Sixpence None The Richer,
right?
So they now the timing might be a little off here because I don't have a Gantt chart of things that happen, but so Matt Slocum was in Love Coma with Chris Taylor, and it formed. I think they formed right about the same time Sixpence did, and so I think he was kind of doing both at the same time, maybe. But then he had heard Lee Slocum at the time, Lee Nash now. But he had heard her sing and was like, I want to do something, I want to do some music with her. So he was doing that at the same time. But I think Sixpence sort of like took off in a way that maybe Love Coma didn't.
Oh, for sure.
Love Coma had some good music and did some stuff, but and they're back together too. Sans Matt, but so they once Sixpence got together and started getting some traction, I think he just fully went full Sixpence. And that was kind of the rest is history because they wound up doing a lot of really amazing things over the years.
Yeah, they did.
You talk about this is your favorite. My favorite album from them is This Beautiful Mess, which I think that version of the band was ridiculously good. They were so good.
Well, that was their big album. That album was huge. That album was everywhere. Yeah. And I liked it. I'm just saying, like I said, I haven't, like you said, I haven't listened to Sixpence, just sat and listened to them. It's been a while. And I listened to them a lot in the 90s. I was totally into, I didn't have a lot of 10,000 Maniacs albums, but I had all the early Sarah McLachlan stuff. I had, I was into R.E.M. and I was into a lot of that indie acoustic rock pop stuff that was happening. Lisa Loeb's first album, I loved. I wore that thing out. So there's a lot of that stuff that I really, really liked. And so when this came out, I was like, yes, something that's Christian, that is in that sort of wheelhouse, but different and quality, high quality. And so, yeah, I dug it. And so I love this first album, and they got into more of a mainstream. They became more of a mainstream act through the 90s, and they actually made the transition well. I think a lot of those Christian bands that tried to do it didn't do it well or didn't really work because Christian music was changing, and we've talked about this, and Christian record labels were getting bought out by secular record labels, so there was a lot of this sort of tension about trying to mainstream some of these acts. And I don't know. There might be one or two that did it as well, or as successfully, but I think Sixpence did it pretty successfully when you look at it. With Kiss Me was a huge hit and all that stuff, and Steve Taylor, right, had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. I was going to mention. I don't know how much. I know that like Steve's vision for Squint Records was, I think, to be less about the Christian market and more about, the mainstream market. And he signed Chevelle and Sixpence and himself. No, but they had,
I'd love to be in the room for that negotiation with Steve. Oh my gosh.
Like, how much money do you want? All of it. Okay, good. But yeah, so it's interesting because I think This Beautiful Mess was kind of their breakout, like sort of like this is a legit, really. I mean, not that they weren't. I think they were more of like a duet on Fatherless, and The Widow. But I think once This Beautiful Mess hit, they're like, okay, they're a force to be reckoned with. They're a really great band, and then whenever like Kiss Me came out and got picked up by some TV show, I probably should know that, but it was on a movie or some movie soundtrack.
It was on a movie, yeah.
Blew up and was everywhere. And I still hear it today. Like
I know.
In Kohl's or the Publix or something and hear it. But so they're still banking on that one. And then they started. I was talking to my wife, talking to Jill about it the other day, and it was like they're kind of like I think of the songs I hear now. I hear "Kiss Me," I hear "There She Goes," I hear like they started doing covers. They started doing covers,
yeah.
Which I mean, it's like why not? I mean, if you can get airplay with them, and they do them well. So, but nonetheless, I will. Digress back to the first album. Okay, here's a little tidbit. So this is for those of you that don't see what I'm holding up here. It's the ACM Journal, which was I think it was a zine, like a Christian music magazine, like a sort of an alternative Christian music, the indie magazine out of, I think it was like somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. They had the best CDs that they would put out. I think about once a year. I may have some of this wrong, but this is 1992. I think that this one, 92. This one came out, and this, anybody has this, this CD is very, very good. But this was the first time I had ever heard Sixpence None The Richer was on this. So they picked up one of their songs from their demo, which was let's see. Oh, I can tell you right here. It was Spotlight, which actually is one of the few songs not written by Matt.
It's the only one, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. But like there were so many good bands, so Sixpence, the Melodramatic Wallflowers, Revolutionary Army of the Infant Jesus, who kind of had a real big underground following, Fat and Frantic, the Plymouth Brethren, the Happy Jerks, Dance of the Porcupines. So there were a lot of really good, but that was the first time I'd ever heard them. And, you could tell there's something a little different about them. So then R.E.X, like you said, R.E.X picked them up and the rest, as they say, is history.
All right. What do you think of the cover?
I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, it's the two of them, which is basically all this was the two of them. With a couple of other people who didn't last in the band, but Sixpence was basically the two of them. But yeah, I like it a lot. What say you?
I mean, to me, I felt like, image wise, it's a 90s album cover for that style. I mean, I don't think they were copying anybody, but it went right in line with other stuff that was going on at the time, and it was simple. And I mean, for a first album, what do you do? I mean, it fits right in their style.
They look like such kids on the album. It's like knowing,
they are.
Like knowing what they look like in my brain right now, because I think Matt's probably in his 50s and Lee's in her 40s, and and it's like they were kids.
They
just
were
like
kids.
The rest of it. Guess what? I was a kid when this album came out.
Yes. I was more Matt Slocum's age, but yes, I was a kid.
Agreed. I was not Lee's. The funny thing is, like, I always thought she was like super cute. She's still an attractive woman, but it's like, I'd say but then when this album came out, I was 22 and she was 16. So, you got to bide your time on that one.
You got to be no, she's not cute.
Nope. Not cute. But no. She wound up marrying, Mark Nash from, was he in PFR?
I don't remember.
PFR, wasn't he? I should know this. Okay, I'm going to fire up the Google machine.
I'm going to make a side comment while you Google that.
PFR.
If you notice, both myself and Steve clearing our throats a lot is because it's 9:00 in the morning.
So early. It's not. Well, theoretically, it's not. Like by this time yesterday, I was in my office working.
Oh yeah.
But it feels early. It feels
it's
early
definitely
to
early to have
personality.
Well, yeah, definitely. It's definitely early to have a conversation and to talk on a podcast. For us, at least.
Yeah, I'm not a big early morning meeting fan, so that's why I kind of like I tell my team at work, let's not schedule anything before like 10. I need to get in, get settled, drink some coffee, check my emails, figure out what it's like to speak to humans again.
Yeah, I don't need to get all into it, but there's a lot of data that supports that. Actually, anyway,
good. Yeah, so it was produced by Armand John Petrie. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that name, but I don't know who that is.
So I looked because the name sounded familiar. So I started looking up, and he did a lot of stuff for in the Christian marketplace, which kind of surprised me. But he went by, I think, like John Petrie for some of it. But like I think he did Live to Die by Bride. He did a lot of Bride albums, which is very, very different.
Right.
So he stretched his wings a little bit with Sixpence, but yeah, he did a lot of he was how you say he was varied in his in the types of things he did. Like he also did Goo Goo Dolls. That's another one. Scarlet Red.
Oh yeah, Goo Goo Dolls is in this wheelhouse a little bit.
Yeah, but he also produced like Don't Dance with Danger by Scarlet Red, which what a weird. I mean, he did a lot of Goo Goo Dolls stuff, and he did a lot of Bride stuff
early on.
But anyway,
early Bride stuff. I'm assuming.
Yes, very early Bride before they got mixed up with the Elefantes and others like that. But Hot Pink Turtle, remember them?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't really remember them.
Yeah, he did A Boy Named Goo by Goo Goo Dolls. Did some work on that. Yeah, so he was kind of weirdly sort of mixed in with like alternative Christian, metal Christian, others mainstream secular stuff. He did 10,000 Maniacs, did some stuff with them. So it's like
it's all coming together. It's all the conspiracy is coming together. No, I'm kidding.
I know. The fix is in. It's interesting though, like sometimes I was not super connected with a lot of who these like, engineers were and producers. I mean, I knew some of the big ones, but it's like whenever you kind of get in and you look at their Discogs, like library or whatever, you realize these people they were doing a lot of stuff.
They were.
I mean, you look at even back a couple episodes ago with Ronnie Cates. It's like he's done stuff. He's apparently produced and worked on a lot of different stuff, mainstream secular stuff, and worked with Michael Jackson and worked with all kinds of different, just like, that's the dude from Petra. That's all I know him as,
Yeah.
But anyway,
well, I
digress again.
Like any industry, especially one that's not a face, if that makes sense. Like you're not the talent.
Yeah.
Like in any industry like that, in your industry, and when we do stuff if you make you're behind the scenes, and if you can do your job well and you have the reputation for that, then you're going to get work, man. You're going to get it. And you're at least easy to work with, right? I mean, like all of those things come into play. So yeah, there was a lot of those guys that you'd see, like if you really paid attention, like I didn't pay as much attention to the engineers and producers unless it was King's X or something. But But when you really started paying attention, you were like, oh, yeah, these guys are really interconnected because they all lived in L.A. and Nashville, right? I mean, they all...
Yeah, and they would do this like, and, you know, like this, like Armin Petrie, like you listen to his stuff and it's like, he can do Bride and he can also do Sixpence because he knows how to do that. Like he knows what sounds good. So,
and this album really does sound pretty good. I mean, this album does sound pretty good. It's not so indie that it's like cringy at times. Like you're like, oh no, this is pretty good.
I waffle a little bit on the sound of this album because at moments it feels a little too sparse. Like I feel like there's, you know, but then like the second or third time I listened through it within the last week, it started making sense to me a little bit more. We talk about giving space to things.
Yeah.
And the space is, I think, intended in a lot of cases where it feels, and I think part of it has to do with listening in the car with road noise versus headphones. I think we listen to it with headphones. You get a little different feeling for it. So,
right.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention where the name Sixpence None The Richer comes from.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. We shared the video for it, didn't we? What were they on? She was on a talk show or something.
Late Show with David Letterman. But here's what she said on there. It comes from a book by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity, which there's some debate as to whether or not that's the first place it was mentioned, but that's kind of probably the most famous place. A little boy asks his father if he can get a sixpence, a very small amount of English currency in use at the time, to go and get a gift for his father. The father gladly accepts the gift, and he's really happy with it. But he also realizes that he's not any richer for the transaction because he gave the money to the kid to buy it. C.S. Lewis was comparing that to his belief in God. That God has given him and us the gifts we possess, and to serve him the way we should do it humbly, realizing how we got the gifts in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thought because, you know, it's like when we give our tithes and offerings to the church, we're just giving God back what he gave us in the first place. So,
yeah, you know, you don't want to get too philosophical, right? But I mean, like how, or theological necessarily, but to me, it should teach us something that why does a God who can create anything he wants need us to give him anything? Like he's like in the middle of all that, it's relational. I mean, that's the point of that's C.S. Lewis's point. Like at the end, it's relational. He wants to empower us to give. He doesn't need what we give him. But he's teaching us his heart of giving and his heart. Because he could, like, what does he need me for? He can just like, oh, if I want that, I'll just make it. But he can't force relationship. So that's what he's after. Anyway, sorry.
One other quick side note. I've got this sampler CD from R.E.X Records, and it's interesting because you can see, like, when I read, like last night I was reading through the list of bands on here. In songs, and that's when you realize how sort of diverse that R.E.X was.
Oh man, they were for sure.
So I'm just going to read these off real quick. Brainchild, which that album became a Circle of Dust album because it was basically Circle of Dust. Killed by Cain,
yes.
Living Sacrifice,
yes.
Vinnie Domine, I think that's the way it's pronounced.
Yeah, progressive metal.
Circle of Dust, Sacrament.
Oh yeah.
Hot Pink Turtle.
Yeah, I did know that as well.
The Wayside, which was basically John Joseph Thompson's band. Sixpence None The Richer. So they had a song "Fatherless" and "The Widow" from this album on here. But it's the demo, not from the actual album. TRB, which is a Tony Rossi band, which was Tony Rossi, the guitarist for Daniel Band.
Oh, okay.
He released an album on them. Eden Burning, Mo Leverett, which I don't really remember much about Mo, Jan Christ, and Derek Lind. Those were a lot of Storyville, which was a lot of sort of singer-songwriter type stuff.
Man, Eden Burning. Yeah. We could do an Eden Burning album.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
they
be
were good.
against that.
Good stuff. Anyway, so it's a lot of really groundbreaking. Now, I don't know what happened to R.E.X. because a lot of times whenever I bring up old record labels, then people kind of get all in their feels about like how they built artists or whatever. I don't know, but
Right. Stuff
I have
happens.
good, I have good feelings about R.E.X. records. Anywho, so Sixpence None The Richer, Fatherless, and I stumble over that every time. The Fatherless and the Widow. You want to get into some music?
Let's do it. All right. This is Field of Flowers. That's pretty much the whole song. That right there is pretty much the whole song. This has more of that AAA sort of structure that I've talked about. Mm-hmm. And a couple of these songs are like this, where they don't have a real hook. They don't have a real chorus. They just kind of have this wandering, poetic, but they sort of style, but they make it work. And yeah, I dig the song. It's not one of my favorites on the album, but it's kind of like this really sort of sweet little intro.
Yeah, I feel like especially again, last night I was listening through with headphones on, and the song feels very simple, but I think when you listen to it, this is kind of the point I was getting to earlier with sort of that simple complexity. Like you can hear how the individual parts sort of interweave with one another. If you just start listening, like if you had it on in the background while you were like, cleaning the house, you probably wouldn't get all of that. But if you really just listen to it,
yeah,
that's when you can start to get that feeling of what Matt was trying to do.
Well, what they're doing on this album is what a lot of these alternative pop is what I'll call them. I don't really consider a lot of what they were doing rock, but this alternative kind of pop rock bands would do is they would come up with a chord structure, and then they would use dynamics. So it would be the same chord structure, and then they would change the melody on top of it, the singing melody. They would layer in more guitars, less guitars, and so they would use the dynamics of the like you're saying, the complexity, the layers. They would use that instead of changing chord structures or changing, going into a chorus or something like that. And so, a lot of bands would do that, and from that time, and that's, I've written songs like that where you're just, and some modern worship songs. I think a lot of these bands influenced a lot of the worship music that started to come out in the 90s too. That was very simple chord structures, and then and then you just kind of layer some kind of jangly guitars on top of it. I mean, that's a lot of churches are still doing this. Not exactly this style, but they're still have those sort of that sort of structure.
Yeah, and this I feel like there's a couple of primary influences I feel like are evident on this album now. I may be off on this a little bit, but I feel like you've got 10,000 Maniacs, but I also feel like you have the Sundays, if you're familiar with the Sundays.
I'm not as familiar with the Sundays, no.
Like this song has a very Sundays vibe to it. And I hear that throughout a lot of the album, like it's sort of a mix, and also a little bit of the Ocean Blue at some points, which if you're familiar with them too, not so much in the way they sound, but just some of the sounds kind of mixed in. But the other thing I was going to bring out about the songs, and this is I think the last episode with Petra, you were talking about the way, they repeat the title in the song or in the chorus 3 times or whatever. This, I feel like that there's several songs on here where, and this is not one of them, but I'll point out whenever we get to one. I feel like, and I could be wrong about, because I'm not a music guy. I mean, I am a music guy, obviously, but I don't write music and play it. But I feel like the verses are like in a minor key, kind of that sort of melancholy, a lot of melancholy on this album.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then things get sunnier on the chorus. Like they switch to major for the chorus, and then it goes back to sad for the verses. So I feel like there's a few songs on this album.
Yeah, there's a couple like that.
Do that, but anyway, but yeah, there's actually some very depressing songs on this album.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But yeah, we'll get to that later. But yeah, so great. Yeah, great opening song. Just fun, simple song.
Yeah, it's just a fun, simple song. And I think that you see on this album too, while they're not there, you start to see on this album where they could cross over into the pop market. Like this song, like no one would think, oh, that's preaching at me and trying to shove Jesus down my throat, right? I mean, so I think people like Steve Taylor or others or record execs could see, oh yeah, we could sell this, in a market, All right, Spotlight, the one song Matt Slocum didn't write.
Mm-hmm.
Got some of that U2-ish. Like
that's exactly what I put in my notes.
Like jangly stuff.
A little delay.
Pretty much that's the whole song. And again, this is songwriting. I know some people like it when I talk about songwriting, but in songwriting, all songs used to be A, right? You look at old hymns, they were this way. You had the like verse sort of thing. But then the end of the verse would be some sort of refrain like this one has. And how it developed was as you started to grow and change, they would extend that refrain, and that became a chorus, if that makes sense. That became kind of its own separate part of the song that you'd return to. So this song kind of has that, and I dig that, the textures, the layering, and all that sort of stuff that's going on. And it's kind of got a cool message that the spotlight shouldn't be on me. Like we should put the spotlight where it should go, which is on God. And we should choose to do that when we can. And yeah, I dig it. It's a cool song.
Yeah. So this song was written by T.J. Belling, which I think he was kind of maybe part of the band in the very early stages, like when they were kind of the formative stages. But like I said earlier, clearly the band is, at this point, is basically Lee and Matt, and then some people who kind of filled in and actually I think there was some Love Coma people that were part of the recording process, part of Matt's universe. But yeah, it's the most glaring thing is what you pointed out to me, which is that sort of the edge, sort of, delay, sort of jangle. And U2 was influencing a lot of people back in that day. Because you got to figure this is essentially, because when the demo came out, it was like 5 years after the Joshua Tree,
right?
Which, in terms of time, in influence, 5 years is nothing. So it's like, it's literally just after the Joshua Tree came out, which there was a lot of, they influenced a lot of people back in that day, which, for good reason.
Well, again, we don't need to get too much into it, but the U2 and the Joshua Tree, even before the Joshua Tree, but definitely the Joshua Tree, how humongous that album was. Absolutely. It paved the way for R.E.M., a lot of these other sort of alternative rock acts, pop rock acts, to sort of start hitting, 10,000 Maniacs. And so by the time you got to the early 90s and grunge and it had all kind of exploded. Sarah McLachlan and, Lisa Loeb. And all that sort of, they took indie and made it non-indie, if that makes sense. Like but yeah.
Well, if you think about it, Island Records was sort of I may be off a little bit on this, but they were kind of they weren't like a major label. They were kind of a lower tier, so almost like indie type label. And then U2 came along and turned them into this like massive thing because we've talked, I don't know if we've talked about it specifically on this podcast, but the 77s were on Island Records at the same time that U2's Joshua Tree broke. Like the 77 self-titled album and Joshua Tree came out the same year on the same record label. One got 100% of the attention, one got 0% of the attention, which is unfortunate.
Right.
But and there's other nuances to that story, but Mike Rowe could tell you. But yeah, so I'm digressing a lot. This is what happens when you get me in the morning.
That's right. Me too.
I start going down rabbit trails.
All right. The title track for the album. So this song is kind of hard to do, to play, because the previous two songs were kind of like repeats of the same sort of structure, but this song has a different structure. It repeats the first part, and then it repeats the second, and then it has a second part where she goes into, they cry to God alone sort of thing. And I actually really like this song. I like that structure. I think it's creative. I think it works. And I like the call to James from about our true religion as the fatherless and the widow and all that stuff. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think musically you can see a little bit of like the bass is very forward.
Yeah.
And that is a sign of things to come, I think, with Sixpence, because I think in This Beautiful Mess, the bass is very intentionally written as a part of the song, not just sort of the foundation of the song, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
So like this is sort of, and most likely it's a Matt Slocum thing, like he likes to do that, but it's also a Sixpence thing. I think this is kind of, in my opinion, this is a little bit of what they're known for, at least in the first part of the first 2 or 3 albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great song. This one feels there. This one's where I feel a little bit of Ocean Blue, a little bit of Ocean Blue influence, and then yeah, because it's like after the bass kind of comes in, they do that sort of that minor chord on the guitar. Or what is it? I don't. It doesn't sound like that. You know what I'm saying? It has that.
Yeah,
that's where I was feeling some Ocean Blue, but I could be wrong. But I feel it, so I believe it.
There you go. That's how life works. If you feel it, it's true.
I have another tangent to go on, real quick.
Okay.
And inside the album, inside the CD, R.E.X Records put this questionnaire.
Ooh.
Have you ever seen the questionnaire?
I don't remember it.
So
it was probably in the cassette, right? I mean, I probably saw it.
I'm sure. It's a questionnaire. It's what is your opinion of this product on a scale of 1 to 5? Where did you buy this album? And then the name of the outlet. Where did you hear about this album? What is your date of birth? What is your sex, male or female? Only 2 choices. Name,
right?
Address, city, address and everything. What your musical interests are, what your church affiliation is, and then comments. So I thought that was interesting.
Can we fill that out and send it in?
We could, but I think it would be fruitless at this point. Because I think R.E.X went belly up just a year or 2 later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was another tangent.
And they went belly up because you didn't send that questionnaire, and they needed more data. They needed more data.
Right. Well, in order to send that questionnaire, and you would have to tear off part of it, and it was like
exactly. I'm not going to do that.
Like you would tear off the picture of the sixpence. It's on the back side of the sixpence.
Yeah,
like I don't want to do that.
Yeah, well, that is not more important than the picture than me maintaining the integrity of my CD.
Hey, I bought your CD. You got some of my money. Just be happy about it. Just move on.
That is the level of our relationship. All right. Yeah. So no, I dig this. I dig the song Fatherless from the Window. It's not super. It's not super encouraging. Like they don't do the Christian thing where they're like, "Oh, God hears their cry and He will help them." Like they don't do all that. They just kind of, boom. Here's the situation.
There's a couple of those on here.
Yeah, there is. We'll get to that. All right. Next song is called Musings, which I find funny because aren't all of their songs just kind of musings? Isn't that sort of all of them? But anyway, sorry.
I think so.
Mysteries unfolding quickly before my
So that's one that is that sort of minor through the verses, and then it has a positive happy spin on the chorus. You've redeemed us, and then it goes back to minor again.
Yeah, I really dig this song. And because they're alternative, they like to do we're going to name the song something that's not actually in the song. We're going to do that, or it's just one word of the song. It's not going to be like in the chorus or the hook. They don't do it all the time, but they like to do that. It's poetic. It's artsy, and so I dig that. I dig that. Like I dig the song. It's sort of like just kind of exploring the world, looking at the world, and then that sort of reality that it's a beautiful thing that God's redeemed it. So yeah, I dig it.
Oh yeah. It's amusing if I may be so bold.
It is. I really like the line, "You gave your life to bring the wayward back to you." I like that line. That's really cool.
Yeah. No. I feel like not disparaging Petra from On Fire, but it's like there is a large chasm of difference between the poetry of Sixpence and the very straightforward, in your face of Petra that we did on the last episode. So it's an interesting dichotomy, if you will. But that's why we love so much stuff. We just have such a wide variety of things that we enjoy.
They all have their place, in my opinion. I mean, in our opinion,
absolutely,
probably. And they all have their place, and speak to us in different ways. And that's why it's important to encourage the arts. All right. So you ready for the next one?
Let's go.
This is another good one. This is Trust.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Don't worry about tomorrow. He's got it under control. Just trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He will carry you through. Lord, sometimes it gets so tough to keep my eyes on you when things are going rough. Then I turn my eyes up to the sky, and I hear your voice. It says to me, trust in the Lord with all
Yep.
your heart.
It's obviously from another Bible verse in Proverbs, Proverbs 3:5, and it's almost like a alternative rock praise song.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely cool.
Well, and my brain was getting kind of mixed up as to whether I was like, is this a song I used to sing when I was a kid, or am I just remembering when I used to listen to this album, and that's why it's so familiar to me? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think they wrote it. I don't think it's.
Well, yeah, I think so too. But it was like one of those things. Like that's where my brain was, because it's such a simple, very scripturally based song that it feels like something you might have sung at VBS or something.
Yeah, it's very much like those praise choruses. So before there was worship music, the modern thing. So you would have the hymns, and then the cool modern thing in the 70s and 80s for a while were praise choruses, where they weren't like full on hymns. They were just, whatever. They were just, little choruses you'd repeat.
Right.
And this does sound like that. It sounds like one of those that we would sing when we were kids. That's probably one reason. But they put a little spin on it. and it starts with the chorus. I mean, technically I would say that's the chorus, and then it has like a little bridge or verse section after that. But I dig it. It's a great little song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those songs that's what I loved about like those sort of simple choruses that are just like straight up scripture. It gets that into your head. It's not like, because there's so much depth in this album, but then that's a very simple, like, let's just remember this. This is important.
Yeah. And I mean, Petra could have sang this, obviously. I mean, they should have put this on Petra Praise too or something.
Like, what's their deal?
All right. Next song, Falling Leaves. This one gets a little more rocking.
Yeah, I was about to say speeds it up a little bit.
Good tune.
Very simple, but very simple yet very complex.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But it's interesting because, like, looking at the lyrics of these songs, it's like there's been some albums we've done where the lyrics for the song just seems to go on forever and ever and ever. And the one recently we did that was that way, but like the lyrics to this song they're so simple. There's not very many of them.
Right.
But it's like the way they structure the song, it feels full and it, gets the point across, but it's interesting. It's a little more depth there too. It's not simple. It's deep, but it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's got all the stuff we've been talking about, and obviously the messages about autumn, and again, that they don't give a resolve to the idea, right? Like they don't give a Christian resolve. They just kind of put it out there. Like the leaves are falling, it's autumn, things are dying, I'm going to be buried too, or something. Like there's just like sort of idea within that. She's like relating to autumn in that sense. So it's interesting. But it wasn't normal for Christian music. Well, I mean, it was more normal for that time of Christian music. Because in the 90s, you had more. So let's just kind of put this out there. Like, music changes because people get really good at what they're doing. And at some point, if you keep doing it, you just copy yourself. You're just copying yourself. And so stuff has to change. And I don't necessarily mind it. It's, it's just, are you doing it with quality and a similar heart and that sort of thing? And so, anyway, I just wanted to put that out because I was thinking about that because, like you said, we switched from Petra, which was like the pinnacle of in-your-face Jesus rocks music, right? And everywhere and in your face, to we're not really going to resolve any of these like poetic statements, but that's 5-6 years apart, and music changed and TV changed and like a lot of stuff was changing. And so you just got to remember, like, as Christians, sometimes you got to remember, like, sometimes the culture changes and how do we speak into that? Anyway. All right. Next song is probably my favorite.
Let me see if this is my favorite.
He stood
Yeah.
This is probably my favorite too.
Yeah, it's such a great hook. It's such a great song. It's taken right out of, I mean, basically the idea is out of Ecclesiastes. And this goes right along with what I was saying even at the time. I know I've said it on the podcast before, that the angst-driven alternative music of the early 90s and mid-90s, it wasn't sustainable, but it was the Ecclesiastes of music. It was the Ecclesiastes of music. Like, while you can't really take Ecclesiastes, this is just, again, my soapbox, but you can't really take Ecclesiastes out of the whole Bible as its own thing, because it's just expressing one idea, right? Mm-hmm. It's meaningless. I've tried it all, and the world is meaningless. Like, that in and of itself isn't the message of the whole Bible, but it's an important message in the scope.
Yeah.
Right. And so within that, that's where you get the song. And again, this style of music, I think, was perfect for that expression. And they kind of had this little end line about just fear God, that's all I know, or something. I don't know if they were forced. I don't think they were. I don't think R.E.X would do that at the time. But they just kind of have that little, hey, just remember, there is a God, and so that's the context here. But anyway, cool song.
Well, they still follow that up with, and now I don't have a reason to live anymore.
Right.
So it's still very depressing.
Right.
Yeah, I think music, the depth and the emotion and the music, the musicianship and the writing of this song, I agree. I put in my notes that this is probably my favorite song as well.
I think it's probably my favorite.
Especially if you listen beginning to end, it's just like, the whole song is great.
The whole song is great. And we're not playing through the whole songs, but there are some really cool little musical interludes in the middle. And you can tell that he kind of does a solo here and there, but it's really just, you can tell his musical, talent is on display for this style, and it's good. Mm-hmm. It's cool. And
it's not flashy guitar solos.
No. But he's mixing. He does mix it up sometimes in the middle with like a little bridge part, and no, it's not like a mosh pit thing. It's just a little different part, and songs kind of need that sometimes. And so again, you can see his sensibilities are there. Good songwriting, good lyrics, good musicianship. You can see that right here, right in the beginning. All right, so this next song is one of those where you're not going to hear the word as the title. Meaningless, you did, but this is called Soul. It does talk about soul, but it's not like the big hook. I think it's a cool tune, and she's got such a, like, what really worked in those days, in that time, the early 90s, was that vulnerability in their voice, but she still had a little power behind it, at times. And so, yeah, she had those great dynamics to her voice. And it's a very pensive sort of song, but it's a cool song.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, again, one thing this podcast does is it helps me to like look deeper at things than I probably ever did, as a 22-year-old. But yeah, this song is definitely a very like poignant song about wondering, what your father is doing because he passed away and that sort of thing. And what I've gathered from liner notes and so forth, I think this was probably Matt's father had passed away.
Yeah,
and
I would guess.
It was written about that, about, mother and I pray that it would happen someday. We would find you when we're going. And it's all, it's just kind of, musing or pondering about, what's dad up to up there, and we're not going to know until we get there and see him again.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, it's got that sort of, this one is another one of those songs that feels very minor chord in the chorus. In the verses, and then gets a little more peppy in the chorus part. But yeah, great song.
What's cool about this song and several of their songs on this album is what was cool about a lot of this sort of music, especially in the early 90s, was very, very conversational style melodies, if you know what I mean. Like, so the melodies aren't meant to be hooks. They're not meant to be they're not meant to impress you with their melodies. On Petra, the melodies are meant to impress you as a melody. Because you've got this amazing singer just soaring, and he can just hit all these notes, and he can do all this stuff, and that's cool. But on a lot of this stuff, like especially in the verses, you've got more conversational type melodies, if that makes sense. So it's like like I said, it's like you're having a conversation. It's like you're talking to somebody, but you're still singing and you're making a melody. And anyway, so this song does that really well, and then it kind of breaks into a nice hook for the chorus, and that's cool. All right, ready for the last one? I mean, I'm guessing I'm going to make it the last one. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
All right. So this is the last one, and it's called An Apology, which I don't know if there's actually ever I'm sorry or an apology in the song, but you'll kind of get it.
Yeah.
Actually really like this song. This it's got a great little hook, and this actually has a more standard song structure for the modern times, where it's got a verse, it's got a pre-chorus, and a chorus, but they make it work, and the guitar work is amazing. Really, I mean, if you know what he's doing, you're like, well, it's not hard, but it works, and it works well, and it sounds good, and it's layered correctly, and so it's really good.
Yeah, it's Yeah, it's a great. It's to me, it's sort of a great sort of culmination of a lot of the album because it kind of has all the same similar elements of all the other songs. But yeah, it's a great song. It's funny because you mentioned like I don't think I heard an apology in there. This feels like someone who's very self aware that they need to apologize,
Right.
but they just can't. They can't do it because like I'll tell my kids it's like that's great, but can you just apologize? So I feel like I want to tell Matt that, Matt, this is, I love the fact that you understand that that you said some things you shouldn't have said, that it was, can you just tell them, can you just say, I'm sorry?
Just say it.
And
Just say it,
it,
man. I mean, and then do your kids do it like Mike? Well, at least not all my kids, but well, if I say it now, it doesn't mean anything because you're making me say it.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then they'll be like, okay, I'm sorry, but it's like, don't say but. Say but. But Matt, don't say but. But yeah, great song. I do have one note about the song we're probably not going to cover, which is the reprise of Trust. The one note I had to make about that was I think it is because it's very piano, very orchestrated, but I think it needs to be said that the fact that they used actual strings, they used an actual like cello quartet or trio, something. But first of all, because indie label and, probably not a ton of money. And it was very easy back in this era to use synthesized strings because it was sounding a little bit better. You could still tell it wasn't real, but it's such a beautiful song. And the fact that they did use real strings to me was just like, I think it was almost shocking to me because that wasn't what I would have expected on.
Yeah. Well, didn't Matt play the cello or something? I
think so. Yeah.
Doesn't he play I don't know if he played it on this album, on this song, but I think he played the cello on some things over time as I was reading through some things. So yeah, who knows how it worked out, but I agree with you. It's the same song, Trust. It's just mostly piano with some string accompaniment here and there. But I really, really dug this song. And like I said, it was like a lot of these albums that we talk about that I remember well, or these bands that I remember well. It was one of those where it was at a time when I was getting into popular music and I liked some of these artists and sounds. And then it was refreshing to have a quality Christian voice within that. And you can make the argument that U2 was a quality Christian voice for some of it. But, in this time in the early 90s, I really like that, and I think Small Town Poets kind of entered that space a little bit a couple years later, and some of that, but I really enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's a great album. It was kind of the first introduction to a group that would become pretty massive in Christian music and in pop music in general. So. It's a great album. It's great. And I'm glad that we did it just for no other reason than I could refamiliarize myself with it because it's been so long.
Yeah. I felt that when I was listening to it earlier this week. I was like, what is wrong with me? I haven't listened to this album. Like I really felt bad about me. I was like, why haven't I been listening to this album and Sixpence None The Richer a little bit more? Because I really did dig this album.
Yeah, it's good. If you've got it, pull it out, just take a listen to it. Headphones, listen to it on the headphones.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation.
It's on Apple and stuff. So check it out.
It's so good. But yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer. I assume I am when this podcast episode comes out. And Britt too. I'm sure he's having just a whale of a summer.
Everyone else is going overseas. I'm manning the fort this summer. We went to Honduras last summer, and I'm manning the fort this summer as my daughter first, and then my wife go to Germany. So I'll be manning the fort.
Keep an eye on things.
I'll keep an eye on things while I work
But
my
anyway.
tail off and do what I do.
Thank you. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure and like and subscribe to us on your podcast platforms and on YouTube. And 5-star reviews are we love those. We've gotten quite a few, and we love it because it helps us. People recognize that we're there and that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Peace out.
Peace out.